How y'all doing? Welcome to next podcast. I have a special guest today, Scott Shirley. Scott Shirley is a teammate of mine from Penn State who's after school has started a nonprofit doing some good things in the community. How you doing today, Scott?
I'm good, man. How about you? It's good to see you.
Man, it's always good to see the guys. I was just talking to Adam Talaferro a couple of weeks ago, and Derek Toes. Is always good to see the guys, man. So tell me a little bit more about what you. Huh?
I said I'm proud of what those guys have done.
Man, extremely proud, man. You know, obviously everybody know Adam's story, and what what he went through. I don't think a lot of people understand and know what he's been doing since then. And, it's kind of like, after playing, after balling, when you're no longer in the spotlight, people forget, is that your story? So, that was one of the reasons why I wanted to bring him on. And then D Tozy, just super proud of him, man, and the stuff that he's got going on.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And similar.
He went through a lot.
Who, D Toes?
Yeah.
He did, and he's a good dude, man, and he got a lot of good things that he's doing right now. So definitely super proud of him. Just like I'm proud of you, man. I had been looking. I knew the life for Live for Life, right? And you started back in 2004.
Yeah, 2003 was our first year doing it. Yep. Yeah.
And what made you start Live for Life?
Yeah, sports has always been an important part of my life. And, I think kids learn a lot from sport, from a young age all the way, to the highest level that you can compete. But my belief, kind of my professional life has been rooted in the belief of the power of sport for social good. And that was born out of, my personal experiences at Penn State. So, the Live for Life you mentioned, my teammates, Damone Jones, Dave Costello, and I, we started that in 2003. After we had learned, it was the fall of 2002, we had learned that my dad was diagnosed with a rare form of cancer. And my family and I went to different medical centers all over the Mid-Atlantic region, and nobody gave us a chance. And my dad was a winner. He was a fighter. He's the guy that I figured is going to beat cancer. We just needed someone to give him a chance. And as we continued to pursue an answer, we went, to all the best hospitals in the region. We finally got to see the top oncologist at Hopkins. And to me, that was like going to see the Wizard of Oz, right? Like we finally got there, and he didn't even invite us into the exam room. He just stuck his head in the waiting room and said, "Hey, the reality is there's nothing we can do. Go home and enjoy the time that you have." They had only given my dad 6 months to live, and we were running out of time. That was spring of 2003. So on my way back to school, I called the American Cancer Society, and they explained to me that because fewer than 200,000 Americans are living with the type of cancer my dad had, and it didn't typically respond to chemo or radiation, that it wasn't one of their priorities, that it's considered a rare disease. So, I walked into my room that night, and Damone was sitting there on the couch. We lived out at Copper Beach. You can probably picture it. And, I walked in, he said, how'd it go? And I said, man, it sucks that 45,000 Americans a year are diagnosed with this death sentence. They're told that nothing can be done because nobody cares. And Damone looked at me and shrugged his shoulders and said, well, then why don't we do something? We're Penn State football. If I do something stupid, it's on the front page of the paper. So let's take that spotlight we have, shine it on people who need a voice. So, the team rallied around the idea to take our 4th of July lifting challenge. You probably remember JT's 4th of July lifting challenge, and turn that into a fundraiser where we can invite fans and media and use that to attract people and kind of give us a platform to tell the story about the challenges that rare disease patients face. So that's how the Lift for Life began in 2003.
Now, when you first started Live for Life, how many years did you do it in, as far as you being a part of it, and now who run it today?
Yeah, so the Lift for Life, that fundraising event in 2003, it benefited the Kidney Cancer Association exclusively. That's the type of cancer that my dad had, renal cell carcinoma. Okay. And I was still on the team in 2003, 2004. So I competed in the lift in 2003, 2004. 2003, we raised $10,000. 2004, we raised about $50,000. So one night, Dave Costello and I were writing thank you notes after the second year of the 2004 event, writing thank you notes to some of the bigger donors. And we were sitting in Lash. It's late on a Thursday night. And we said, we've got all this money going to this group out in Chicago, but, we've never met anybody there. And, it'd be pretty cool to kind of hand deliver this check. Kind of one thing led to another. And we realized that if we were going to make a road trip, it's late in the summer, right? And the only chance we had to go was that weekend before we got into camp. And, we figured it's the only opportunity we had. So I called out there and they said, Scott, you guys are our biggest donor, so you're always welcome to come visit us. But we're a small staff. We're only a staff of 3, and we have our biggest patient conference of the year this weekend. So why don't you pick another date to come out? And Dave and I figured, it's the only chance we have. So, let's go for it. So we called JT to see if we could get off of our Friday lift. And he said, don't let anybody know that I'm cool with it. But, I got your back. So we went out, we rented a car and we drove overnight to Chicago late in summer 2004. And we were in Gary, Indiana, when they called to see if we were still coming. We said, yep, we're about an hour away. They said, great. Our keynote speaker just canceled for lunch. Do you guys think you could fill in? So when we got there to the Hilton O'Hare, they valeted our car and ushered us right up on the stage. So Dave and I still hadn't met anybody at the Kidney Cancer Association, but we stood in front of a room full of 500 families that lived in the same world that we lived in, where we were told nothing would be done because nobody cares. And then walked 2 college football players who drove halfway across the country overnight to say, hey, you know what? We care and we're fighting for you. And we were interrupted 3 times by a standing ovation. And that was a life-changing moment for me. Excuse me, because I learned in that moment that if we accomplished nothing else, we were at least in a position to inspire patients with hope by simply taking action. They needed a champion. They needed somebody to lead the charge. And there we were representing college football, willing to take on that burden for them. So that's really where the idea kind of was launched for me, kind of on that drive back to school to let's take this Lift for Life from Penn State and let's get other schools doing it for other rare diseases. There's 7,000 different rare diseases. So we played that 2004 season. We both graduated with master's degrees and kind of went to work. I went to work for Clark Construction out in D.C. there, worked on the National Stadium, some big projects, had my dream job. About 2 years later, my dad passed away, and the first new treatment came to market for his disease, and we, Penn State Lift for Life, are credited with being the catalyst for that progress. So I quit my job and moved in with my mom back in PA and started the charity Uplifting Athletes to franchise the Lift for Life event across the country. So over the next 10 years or so, we worked with about 50 schools and had more than a $400 million impact on the rare disease community. Through that whole experience, created a software company called Pledget, which is where I work full-time today, and hired Brett Brackett, former Penn State football player as well, to take over the day-to-day operations of Uplifting Athletes. And he and his team, Rob Long from Syracuse and other guys, they've taken that whole Uplifting Athletes deal to the next level. It's been really cool to see.
Oh man, that's amazing. And congratulations again. Sorry to hear about your dad. I know that was tough. But as far as I think he'll be proud of you, what you're doing today. Cause that's, that's good. That's good stuff. Giving back to the community and giving back to people that don't feel like, anyone is there listening to them. I think that goes a long way.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's been beneficial to me. And, one of the things we learned, I think in the first 2 years that Lift for Life is that the benefits are greater than we anticipated. We were giving guys a chance to take the leadership they're learning in sport and what they're learning in the classroom and apply it to solve a real world problem that galvanized the locker room. There were a lot of really cool kind of life skills benefits of being involved with it. So I became really passionate about creating opportunities for other athletes to have those transformational experiences to help launch them into kind of the next phase of life.
When you're talking about uplifting athletes and $400 million over how long?
Yeah, so it really from 2003 to present, but we had a couple really big kind of milestone events on that journey. So these photos behind me kind of tell the story. So that's my dad there sitting in the media room at Penn State talking about the first Lift for Life. So this is an image.
The far left picture.
Yeah, that one there. And then this picture here is a tug of war at the Penn State Lift for Life. But then Mark Herzlich, the linebacker at Boston College who had Ewing sarcoma, that was when we were starting to spread uplifting, pretty pivotal moment for us. It looks like I'm freezing. All right, can you hear me?
There you go.
Okay. Yeah, so when Mark was diagnosed at Boston College, one of his teammates, Ryan Lindsay, had reached out to us to see if they could do a Lift for Life up there. And Spaz was the coach at the time. He was he's a former Penn State player, and he told us we could spin it up there. And Mark's story is incredible, and it really kind of brought the Lift for Life and uplifting athletes into the national spotlight. Kind of a long story short, but at Nebraska, the little boy Jack Hoffman that scored the touchdown during their spring game, that was all part of what we call the Rare Disease Champions. So they had a running back, Rex Burkhead, who had befriended Jack when Jack was fighting for his life with brain cancer. And we give an award to a leader in college football who realizes the position they're in to make a positive impact in the rare disease community. And Nebraska nominated Rex for that award, and then we do an online vote. And Rex got more votes that year. It was 2016. He got more votes than any candidate for the presidential election at the Iowa caucus did. So that kind of blew the top off of what we were doing. And, so Rex ended up winning that award. We started a chapter at Nebraska. The chapter at Nebraska then had the idea to put Jack in the spring game, and he scored that 69-yard touchdown, got 8 million YouTube views. President Obama invited us to the White House to talk about the needs for pediatric cancer funding as a result of that. So, that unlocked state funding, university funding, federal funding, the kind of, that was a game changer in the world of rare disease research. So then what other, Jake is the blind line snapper from USC who won the Rare Disease Champion Award. And the award is sculpted in the likeness of Mark Herzlich. It's pretty cool. And then, Jimbo Fisher also was a finalist for that award. He's wearing the uplifting athlete's wristband, holding up the national championship trophy there. So, it was really kind of from Mark to Jack has been kind of those are the significant milestones in the uplifting athlete's journey.
Yeah, that's amazing, man. I remember seeing the kid at the Nebraska game few years back, leading the guys out, and it was heartwarming and touching. Just to know and see that guy there, and I didn't even know you had anything to do with it, or your organization had anything to do with it.
Yeah,
but, I'm not surprised. So, what are some of the guys that you've worked with in the business when you're talking about professional athletes? I know you had some stuff with another former Nittany Lion, Devin Steele. And I saw some other stuff.
So we've worked with over 1,000 professional athletes now. So that's a great segue to what I'm doing with Pledget. So, uplifting athletes always had need for what we call performance-based fundraising. So pledge per pound or pledge per rep or something like that. Nobody out there does it. So we had been thinking about doing something like that for a long time. And then in May of 2014, Devin's daughter, Leah, was diagnosed with neuroblastoma, which is a rare disease. And a lot of guys who had gone through our program, in fact, 43% of NFL players at that time had gone through our program on their college campus. So, because we had such strong roots in college football, there was this natural transition to the NFL. But, you played in the league. Like, you don't got a lot of time to do a lot of fundraising stuff or whatever. But, so Devin called me in May, told me about Leah, and I said, well, how about we do a sack cancer campaign where Bengals fans can pledge for every sack? And he liked the idea, but I think they were starting camp July 13th, something like that. So we only had from May till July to figure out how to build a website to do, what we needed to do so he could collect pledges for every sack that he and his teammates had. So that was how Pledget was born. And, it was kind of the dog that caught the fire truck, right? So he has a press conference first day of camp, and then Ellen DeGeneres, and everybody's talking about, pray for Leah, which was just unbelievable. But that launched Pledget. So 2 days later, Phillip Rivers called and said, "Hey, Scott, I saw what you're doing with Pledget. Can I use that for Ronald McDonald House?" And then Alex Gordon called. He was playing for the Royals at the time, and he said, "Can I use this at the World Series?" So that fall of 2014, we worked with probably a dozen pro athletes, maybe half Penn State, half of them otherwise. And we said, okay, we got something here. So we built the platform in 2015 as a scalable DIY platform that anybody could use to raise money for any cause. So we launched that in August of 15 with the Redland Little League baseball team to raise money for the Four Diamonds Fund, the same beneficiary as Penn State Dance Marathon. And it's been cool, man, to see what people do with it. So, one story I love to tell is that, scaling impact through software is kind of infinite, right? So like I go to bed at night, I wake up in the morning, I like to see what did somebody do with the technology that we created. Well, I was sleeping, right? With uplifting athletes, I was really hands-on with everything. So if I wasn't involved, it wasn't happening. Where with software, you build it and then people kind of take it. So, one morning I woke up and Bismack Biombo had visited the Eastern Congo and saw, a school had been devastated. He wanted to use his rebounds or use his boards in the NBA to rebuild that school. So, overnight he created a campaign and he raised $43,000 in 48 hours to rebuild a school in the Eastern Congo. Larry Fitzgerald created a campaign from his hotel room before their first game in October to do breast cancer research. On the NFL side, it's really more a question, who haven't we worked with? Lots of big names in the NBA. I mean, KD and it's just James Harden. I mean, lots of dudes have done it. Major League Baseball is another big one. Mike Trout, Albert Pujols, Verlander, all those guys. So it's been fun, man, just to see. There's a lot of athletes out there that want to do good. I just have always wanted to provide them with the tools and the direction and, kind of let them do their thing. So.
Right. And I agree. There's a lot of guys out there, but elaborate a little bit more on how Pledget works. So, for example, if you have me and I want to set up some type of program.
Yeah. So how
does it work?
Larry Fitzgerald, he did his catches. So it was called Catch the Cure. So Arizona fans could pledge for every reception that he had in the month of October. So he sets up his campaign, and then, he shares it on social media, and fans click on the link and they say, I'll give $1 per catch. And after each game, that fan gets an email from Larry that says, hey, I had 6 catches last night. You pledged $1 per catch. So $6 has been added to your account. Your donation will be charged at the end of the month. And at the end of the month, if he had 24 catches, all of those people who pledged get that notification, and then their credit cards are charged and the money goes to, in his case, it was the American Cancer Society. But what's cool is as thousands of people pledge, each catch that he makes is literally worth $5,000-$10,000. Klay Thompson ran a campaign for wildfire relief where every point he scored was worth $5,000, and he's scoring 30, 40 points a night. So he's just raising tons of money,
right.
And the fans are emotionally invested. They want to celebrate success with him. So the better he does, the more people give, and the happier everyone is. Chris Long did educational equality with his Pledge 10 campaign. Every game he played, and he raised $1.5 million doing that. But the cool thing is, as we have run Pledget now since 2014, what we learned is once a charity gets money from Pledget, the charity wants to run more campaigns, and people who aren't professional athletes want to raise money. So, James Boyd today, you want to raise money, you go to pledget.org, you click on start a campaign, and you can create a campaign based on anything. You can do it with your kids and reading books, or you can do it run and walk and bike and lift, and you can do it based on whatever you want to do. But we sell to the charities now, and then the charities will create these multi-participant programs where they then recruit lots of people to do the same activity. So push-up challenges. I always joke that I'm not creative enough to fabricate the stuff that we see happen on the platform. I mean, we've got lots of bird watching. We've got surfers catching waves. We've got just crazy stuff, man, and it all works.
Right. And I think when you talking about giving back for a good cause and being good and people just being good, I think we got more good people in this world than we got bad, right? And I think everybody want to see humanity and people get better and feel better. I was looking at the website a couple of days ago, and my wife was looking at it as well, and she was like, yeah, they got a free program because we actually been affiliated with a nonprofit called Team 083. I've been in the process of trying to have my nonprofit transfer from Florida because that's, I was in Florida when I first registered it. So now it's a headache. So a cousin of mine, he have a nonprofit called Team 083, and I'm on the board. So we've been, looking at ways to try to raise money on different programs. This was just yesterday. This year we're going to probably do three color runs, and a golf-a-thon, right? And we just working out how to put this stuff in play now. Because obviously the dates will be here fast.
Yeah.
August will be here fast. The time not going to wait. So to get it done now and to get it set up, to get it organized is where we at in the process right now.
Well, I'm not going to turn this into a sales call, but we can help you out. We got people doing color runs. The golf-a-thons, they kill it. Golf marathons, they're awesome. So yeah, we'll get you set up.
Oh no, we definitely can talk about it offline. And also wanted to do maybe like a basketball game, something similar, alumni basketball game at a high school or something like that. Just to get stuff going and getting people involved. Cause this past, holidays we did like a food and toy drive. And we basically came out of pocket. Basically me, my wife, and, my family members, we came out of pocket and basically, raised all the money to be able to help about 25, 30 families in the Hampton Roads area. Yeah, so that's some of the stuff we're doing. Tell me, let's talk about how did playing sports and playing athletics prepare you for business?
Yeah, man, I think adversity is the first word that comes to mind, right? Because entrepreneurship isn't for the weak, and you face a lot of adversity. You got to overcome a lot of obstacles, but that's where growth happens. One of the things I love about sports is the contrast, right? Like you can control the effort, but not the outcome. But you got to do everything you can to put yourself in the right position. And when the ball doesn't bounce your way, you got to find a way to make it happen on the next play, right? So, for that reason, I know the benefits that sports have afforded me in my professional life. So I definitely have a preference for hiring athletes and former athletes. And if you look at the makeup of our team, I mean, we got Suzanne ran track and cross country at Youngstown, and girls that played sports, at a high level, because they know how to get it done, right? Like I think that's the biggest thing. And I'm so blessed to have Dave Koslow, who was a teammate of mine at Penn State. We were the same class, so we spent 5 years together there. Started Lift for Life together. Kind of went our own ways. And then, he joined our team at Pledget like 5 years ago, but he brought with him experience from IBM and Minitab. And, man, he is the backbone of Pledget. And, not only does he have that sports background, but we have that trust, that camaraderie, that's forged in the locker room and in the trenches. So, it's just so fun working with him. Having been former teammates, because we get each other and we get how it works.
Right. It's like, and I had this conversation with my wife, it's like, people from sports background, military background, the mind frame is all the same, right? You understand how to get through adversity. You understand, the power of team. And being a solid teammate to people. And I think, as far as sports goes, I think it brings, people together, right? No matter what race, religion, anything, any of that stuff, it brings sports brings people together. And I think what you guys are doing is amazing, man. You guys got to keep doing the great work. Some national programs that
some of our bigger charity customers like St. Jude. We've done a lot with St. Jude. We actually got another big thing coming out with them. Run Rich Run, they do at the NFL Combine. So they'll be doing that on Pledget. So you'll be seeing and hearing about that. If you watch football, if you watch NFL football, you'll be seeing and hearing about that. So we're doing that together. Dana-Farber, American Cancer Society. Children's Hospital of Philadelphia. I mean, there's a lot of multi-billion-dollar organizations that we work with, which is pretty crazy. But we work with family foundations that are just starting up and have never raised money before. I mean, that's the cool thing is we can work with the biggest and the best, and we can work with the people who are just starting out, but they got an idea and they got passion.
Right. Again, that's awesome. So let's switch it a little bit. Off of that. How do you feel about college football? Is different, man. It's totally different today than when we played. How do you feel about the transfer?
There's a lot about college football that solves that addresses problems that existed when we played, but I don't think they have the solutions quite figured out, right? Like the transfer portal. I love how James Franklin is managing it, right? We don't want to be a transfer portal team. Like we'll use it to address specific needs that are situational, but we're going to recruit the right guys that want to be there. I mean, I see so much of Joe's principles and values in the way that James runs the program, but also it's James's program, right? Like he's not doing it to honor Joe. Like they did a good job finding a guy that has the heart of a lion. And I think I love everything that he's doing there. But the portal specifically, I always felt like quarterbacks are in a tough situation, right? Like there's typically only one quarterback on the field. And if you are in a situation where you're not going to play, the prospects of you having a future in football are very small. Because if you're not on the field, how can you ever advance, right? And that's a really unique situation. And I think when coaches leave, that puts kids in a tough situation, right? Where the new coach comes in and doesn't want you. And I also always felt like non-scholarship players should be able to transfer freely to hold the teams accountable. Because once guys start contributing, there's no real threat of them leaving. I think there's some of those inequities that are addressed with the portal. I think not having restrictions on the portal in the sense that like Jason Gander once said to me, 83% of freshmen are unhappy after their freshman year, right? Like they didn't play as much as they thought they should. School was harder than they thought. They missed their girlfriend, whatever. Those kids transfer and then they regret transferring. So I think there need to be some restrictions in place that help protect kids from themselves, if that makes sense.
Right, I agree. Because I can remember even halfway through my freshman year, like you said, man, every freshman in America think they're supposed to be playing, right? And like I know, the old man didn't truly care about playing freshmen, right? So, halfway through the season, I can remember calling my mom and like, I'm gonna transfer. She was like, no, you're not. You're gonna wait and see and figure it out. So I'm like, I don't want to be here. Then I had a conversation with Bill Kenny. Bill, I want to transfer. Why? You're not playing. I'm not playing as much, and I feel like I'm better than the people in front of me. And he's like, okay, well, you might be, but, take your time, learn the system, and build the trust in the coaching staff, and then you'll be in there. So I do agree, man. I feel like not one kid in America that's coming out of high school, those 4 and 5 star 3 kids, they don't think they're supposed to be playing, right? So I think it's a situational thing. I do agree with the quarterback situation because only one person can play, right? So, but then again, on the same note, the coach is allowed to be able to transfer and leave and go somewhere, take another job somewhere. And, a lot of stuff is system oriented, right? So, I go to Penn State as an offensive coordinator and I bring some kids with me and then I'll leave and go somewhere else. Is that fair for the kids? Totally agree. Next thing, what about the NIL situation?
NIL is crazy, man.
Situation in itself.
I always felt like because there is no minor league football, if you're a high school kid whose family depends on you to provide and you want to pursue a career in football, you cannot provide for your family for 4 or 5 years, 3 years at a minimum. That creates some inequity. It makes football inaccessible to some people. So I think like restricting the rights to earn money is fundamentally wrong. Now, I think the idea of of advertising for commercial sponsors and getting paid for it. Like there's guys that we play with, and you could probably think of guys like their stock was the highest when they were in college, and they weren't allowed to monetize their name, image, or likeness then. And the commercialization of their name, image, and likeness, I feel like, there's guys that they make way more than that in the NFL if they're guys that can play in the NFL. But there's guys that, you're good enough to be a quarterback at Penn State, but you're not good enough to play in the NFL. So you kind of missed your chance to monetize, to commercialize your name, image, and likeness because of those restrictions. Now, what they've done with the collectives and pay for play, I've never been in favor of a pay for play model. So I like, again, the way that Penn State's doing it. Like Abdul Carter is on a billboard in Harrisburg, and it's for an injury attorney who deals with car crashes, right? And Abdul Carter's there, like flexing in front of the car, like, hurt in the car, or call HHR, like that. I think is the spirit of name, image, and likeness, and I think that it's let the cat out of the bag, let the Wild West. That I'm glad they're finally doing it, and I hope they continue to refine it. Yeah.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, I agree, man. And Deion Sanders made a comment a couple of months ago about it directly towards Nick Saban. He like, okay, Nick, what you mad about? Now the playing field is even. You guys been doing it for years. You just wasn't caught. So now it's legal, right? And I know Joe said it years ago. He wished he could play players because guys deserve to be paid. But I think they took it to another level, right? So when it first came out, it was basically, companies could come in and pay kids, to promote and advertise social media,
is right.
Commercials, whatever.
Intention.
Now what the university
and I think they'll figure out how to regulate that over time.
They've had their boosters.
Yeah. But I also think, I was against expanding the playoffs. I'd be interested to hear your thoughts on it. But I remember in '99,
schools offering kids scholarships and offering them $10,000 a month if they come,
lost that
and
one game,
NIL deals.
Nothing else mattered.
So that's
right?
kind of,
I didn't like that all or nothing. Was play all your bowl games and then rank the teams and then have 1 versus 2 play. So you're not trying to pick. Well, we went from picking 2 to picking 4. So what's the right number to pick? Let's have everybody play traditional bowl matchups and see, so Penn State plays Utah and they showed out. So maybe they weren't in the top 4, but maybe now if I'm voting, maybe I think they have a chance. And if you look at how this postseason played out, who you would have matched up in the national championship if you did a ranking post bowl might have been different than who got matched up. But I think, yeah, go ahead. Yeah, right.
I agree because when you look at the NCAA and it's Sweet 64 or 34 basketball tournament, right? So you got 64 teams and there were 65 teams, and you never know. You got the Cinderella team that pops up and end up in the Sweet 16 or the Elite 8. And this year, I feel like I do feel like Penn State, and probably a little biased, but I feel like Michigan beat us. They beat us physically from the front to the end, right? And I feel like we just blew it and made some bad calls against Ohio State.
Yeah.
We had Ohio State the whole game until the last 5 minutes of the game, and we was up 20 points, I think it was, or 17 points, and within a 4 or 5 play like
Well, and I feel like the timing
span, the
of it is
game
right
was we was
now
down
because
14 points.
with
And,
NIL
I
and with
think
the
that left
transfer portal,
everybody in that stadium looking like what just happened,
maintaining parity
right?
in college
So
football
we
is
know
going to
they're
be very
not
tough
better than
growing up. But
us.
if your favorite team growing
They
up
just was better than us
doesn't
that
have a
night,
chance of competing
right?
for the
So
national championship in the next
it's
4 years,
I do agree
and I'm
and
good
feel
enough to
like,
go somewhere else, I'm going to have to
maybe
go
you take
somewhere
the
else. And I
top
think it
eight
helps
or the top
keep better
10
talent
teams and you play
local
them in a tournament.
because more teams have a chance
And
to
I just feel
compete
like
for
that's the
that
only
national
way you're going to get
championship.
a true champion.
Right. 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 At least for us, we're
Right,
talking
and
about
I think
making that trip once or
you talking
twice.
about
For
keeping the
them, half of
parity.
their
Like
road games are
in a
going to be
minute,
across the country.
we probably won't even have conferences, right? I mean, look at USC and UCLA joining the Big Ten in 2 years, right? How is that going to work? How's Penn State going to travel on the West Coast for a game when the kids got school?
That's
Play
why
UCLA one
that's why
week
the
where they
Cowboys are in the
stay out
NFC
there to
East,
play,
right? Like Jerry Jones
USC the
wanted to be in the
same
New York
a week
media market
later.
because he knew
Or would they
would
come
be
back
the
and then have to
most
fly back out to California in a
the
couple of
best.
weeks? So, I mean, I think, right, right. And so I think,
Yeah.
the whole, conference shuffle, people moving, and might as well just do without conferences, but it's so much money involved
You mean the
that'll never
Commanders?
happen. Unless they, I'm sure they'll figure out a way, but it's too much money involved for them to get rid of conferences. That's why Notre Dame is slow to join a conference, right? They don't have to.
Man, I love to see, and we were talking about recruiting a minute ago. He was a
Right.
signing day flip from UCLA to Penn State. He was a local kid who stayed home, right? Because he's from Nazareth, I think. But yeah, I love. I played receiver, so obviously
Right.
I
So
love
because
seeing
when you
Penn
look
State
at
receivers
the
fall out.
NFL and
Chris
look at the
Godwin.
top
Think
10
about those
teams,
guys getting to play with Tom
monetized
Brady,
wise in the
Donovan
NFL,
Smith, Chris
Redskins
Godwin. Like,
and the
how
Cowboys are
crazy is that?
probably top 5 teams when you're talking about as far as the brand. So
Right.
that was definitely a smart choice on his
Yep.
watch.
Yep. Yep.
Oh, that's right, the Commanders. They
Trace, it was
sound
cool to
better
see Trace
saying the
play against
Washington
him the other
football
night.
team.
Yeah. Yeah.
But and speaking of those guys, Jahad Dotson. What do you think? What do you think of Jahad Dotson?
Oh man, I feel like everybody said you appreciate his lessons later in life, and there's so much that he taught that I carry with me today. He was an OBS guy, right? Like he told you hard truths, but he had your back. He
Right.
cared about us. I stop in to see Sue sometimes, and I'm in town. Like,
Right. And Tom played with us.
when we started the Lift for Life,
So
we
Tom
went to
about
him for
21
permission,
years
and
in.
he gave us his blessing to
Tom,
do it. But he said,
like the
I
goat,
don't want to
the
get involved, and I don't
Benjamin
want to
Button,
overshadow it.
getting older.
I want this to be your thing. So let me know behind the scenes what I can do to help. But I don't want to be out there in front talking about it because they'll make it about me. So he was a guy.
Close
I
up on
thought
this.
he
I know
always
you got
had a
stuff to
great
do.
perspective.
Talk about what Joe Paterno meant to you.
It was always about more than football to him. And I think you're evidence of that. I'm evidence of that. And I take a lot of pride in being his legacy. Yep. Yeah. Yeah, I think
I agree, man. I tell people all the time, like,
coach really
for
cared,
him,
but there's
and
coaches
for
out
us,
there
it
that
was
are
more than football.
who treat it like a business.
He was about
And,
teaching
you played in the
young
league, and
men
you probably
how to
see the
become
difference
men.
between an NFL
I
coach and a
remember
college
I'm always
coach,
saying,
right? Like,
not everybody
it's
gonna
a
make
big
it to the
difference.
NFL.
I will
Like,
say,
not
you
all
said,
you
look to your
guys.
right, look
Like,
to your
you're
left.
looking in this room.
Half these guys won't play in the
He's out there
NFL.
saying,
One of the
look
things
to
we're
your
very
right, look
fortunate
to
at
your
Penn
left.
State is I think
Half of the people in here
we're in the
will
top
not
10
make it to the
teams,
NFL.
college teams,
And it used to be
of sending
like
guys in the NFL.
4%,
So it was more
5%
than
of you in here
4%
will.
playing
So
the
the
NFL.
other,
And I was
I'm
curious.
preparing the other
I have this
94 to
picture of our Alamo
95%
Bowl team next
that's
to my
not
desk
going
here.
to the NFL.
And I looked through that
And I
roster, and
think
then I
a lot
looked
of
through the
times
roster from
when you at a
my
major
senior year,
university
so
like
fall
that,
of 2003.
and at that time,
And I looked at all the guys that played in the
was
league and how much
he
they
was
made.
the
You know how
top
much
of
the guys
chain,
made that
right?
were
When you look
on
at
the
it
roster
from
with me
coaching
during my
and the
5
program.
years.
And I think,
$500 million.
a lot
Over
of, I think a
$500
lot of
million
that is
is
gone
what those
today in
dudes
college
made.
football.
So, kind of tying it back to NIL, and we can wrap up. Like, don't worry about the $10,000 a month right now. Take care of the business that you came to take care of, and you'll make that in spades later. So don't pick a school. Don't pick a school based on, Joe used to say, don't pick a school based on a party or a girl. Show guys, what Penn State's about, because we want them picking us for the right reason. I feel like the same is true in the NIL era. Like, don't get distracted. Don't make a decision over a couple $1,000. Make a decision about who's going to get you in the position to succeed in life.
No, I'm sure.
Yep. And, I think that's a testament to Joe, too, because he was there so long. He was such an institution that we were all connected kind of through as part of that same family. A lot of these other schools that I've worked with in the years, when the coaches come and go like that, the players aren't connected because they don't feel like they have a home. So, and I think Bill O'Brien, I think James have both done a good job of keeping the doors to our home open. So.
Right. And I feel like too, when you're talking about, alumni, I feel like we got the best alumni as far as former players in the country and program. I feel like guys really, really, care about each other and really, want to see each other do good.
Yeah.
So I can say I see different from
classic.
Other, friends that went to other schools and different universities. And while we might not talk daily, we still checking up on each other just to make sure everybody doing good.
Yep. Good stuff. Yeah, thanks for having me. Yeah, that's good stuff. And let's stay in touch, man.
Right.
I'll see you up at this.
I love James. I agree with what you said earlier about James. I think he does a great job. I think he has a lot of qualities that Joe had, and Joe probably would have looked for replacing him. And I think he's just been able to adapt to, the new social media world. So definitely. It is classic. And I like the way he does his spring games where he draft the kids or draft day on signing day. He does a lot of things, man, that bring excitement to that building. And having excitement, obviously, for the kids today, that's what they need and that's what they're looking for. So definitely agree. Well, appreciate it, buddy. Look, thanks for coming on today. Definitely will. I talked to you about possibly doing some stuff together offline. Definitely looking forward to it and keep doing all the good work. I appreciate it.